the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. Do you ever wonder if you had written such an opening, how you would finish the story? Well, you're going to do that tonight. The challenge will be not to be interminable and to just keep it to 2 minutes. So, let's begin. Megan. The wonderful story of the tale of Benjamin Bunny by Beatrix Potter begins this way. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. He pricked his ears and listened to the trip-trot of a pony. A gig was coming along. The road it was driven by Mr. McGregor, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. As soon as they passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down the road and set off with a hop, skip, and a jump.
Thank you. Tell you right now, I'm not the most creative, and I'm honestly not 100% familiar with this story. I know my story's sad. I guess so Bunny hops down the bank, and he finds a home. As Emma was happy enough, I have no idea. I'm so sorry.
No, please. The nice thing is that when you write your own stories, then you get to finish them how you want to, not how the book or so you don't have to have read the book to finish the story. This is your chance to create your own story, but you have a great beginning. So let's continue. Well, reading from the biography of Steve Jobs, written by Walter Isaacson. I'm personalizing it for you to make it more meaningful. And it starts this way. When Will was mustered out of the Coast Guard after World War II, he made a wager with his crewmates. They had arrived at San Francisco, where their ship was decommissioned. And Will bet that he would find himself a wife within 2 weeks.
Exciting. Wow. So, if I had that kind of challenge before me, I landed in town. I had to find a wife within 2 weeks. I'm just going to think out loud here for a minute. I would have to question myself, why is this my main calling? I'm a young man. I'm just starting my life. And I've got a 2-week goal to my wife. So I've got to think about a job in there somewhere. I've got to think about where I'm going to live. He's just getting off a boat. And I've got the very lofty goal of finding a wife within 2 weeks. Also, as a young man, I don't even know how to talk to women yet. So this is going to be a challenge. Where am I going to meet these people? And I happen to know that Steve Jobs actually did this. He did find a wife within 2 weeks. So I know that it's possible, even as a young man, to approach a woman. I don't know about the rest of you, but when you approach a person from the opposite sex, you are doing good with your work. I just got back from a trip overseas. It was very successful. And, I'm going to fly over to London. I'll be back. And then I was thinking when we got back, you wouldn't and your tongue just, kind of goes, no, you don't know what to say. And you might give up and just turn around and walk off. But he overcame all of that in 2 weeks. And that's probably why you know his name but not everybody knows mine.
Okay, Albert, you have the story of a French, a book that originated in France, the Little Prince. And your beginning goes this way. I lived my life alone, without anyone that I could really talk to, until I had an accident with my plane in the desert of Sahara. 6 years ago, something was broken in my engine. And as I had with me neither a mechanic nor any passengers, I set myself to accept the difficult repairs alone. It was a question of life or death for me. Please continue.
I think I'm glad because I read the book probably like 5 or 6 years ago, but I was only speaking French. I wasn't speaking English.
I did thought about saying it in French, and then I decided not to.
Yeah, the writer is probably super someone. But what happened, I think, is little boy comes up and he asks him to draw him something, I guess. And
This is your chance to make your own story, not
oh,
necessarily what the
okay,
book
I'm
says.
sorry.
Yeah, your own story.
Well,
You're stuck in the desert.
wow. Oh, that's a tough question. Well, this was probably like back in the 40s, and no cell phone, no internet, no whatever. So I think I would maybe just maybe stood up and try to find anything. I would dug a wall in the desert and try to get some water. That's all right. I'm sorry. I'm so bad.
I think that one of the things I thought about when I was coming up with this, how good it would have been as a mother, and to when you're sitting around at the table with your children, and you play that game once upon a time, and the next person is asked to continue the story, and they say a line, and then the next one, that this has been a great prep for tonight. We had that. So if any of you have children, like young children, or in the future, this would be a great thing to do, because I thought this has been so great. All right, well, we'll end on one last one. And shall it be Charlotte's Web or The Telltale Heart? Well, let me read The Telltale Heart, because this is one of my favorite stories from Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, who's going to get to do this? Why don't we, Alan, get you to attempt this one? And remember, you can make up any story you like based on the intro. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am, but why would you say that I am mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in heaven and earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? And observed how hearken, and observed how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the story.
Thank you, Ms. Dale. Esther? Question, what's the disease?
Madness.
Madness. I guess I would take this from a perspective of some friends that I know that struggle with mental disease and has impacted their career and their studies. as a bipolar person, say, there's a periods of depression, there are periods of mania, where they're super excited, and they know they're not well, and there are medicines that help with the situation, but the medicines have side effects, so they're not really compliant with their medicines. So they still continue to go through periods of depression, and they treat the depression and it enhances the mania, and it's just a continuous cycle. And in the end, one day, something terrible happens, and they realize that they're not, maybe it's this character not impacting just, it's not just me that's being impacted by not taking these medicines, it's other people around me.